This month's SBE Webxtra is brought to you by Wheatstone, maker of the intelligent IP audio network used by studios around the globe. The AES-67 compatible WheatNet IP intelligent network is the most comprehensive end-to-end studio network system in the world, with a full line of consoles, software apps, IP audio appliances, and third-party add-ons for any studio workflow, size, or purpose. Wheatstone. Well, hello and welcome to today's installment of the SBE Webxtra. I am the SBE Member Communications Director, Chris Scherer, and we are joined today with our co-host, who is joining us now, Kirk Harnack, who is an SBE board member, and he will introduce us to today's show and tease a little bit about our guest.
Thank you much, Chris. Appreciate that very much. And hey, stay tuned because Chris has a member update coming up for us in just a minute. I'm Kirk Harnack in the SBE Webxtra studio in Nashville, Tennessee. And our guest for today's show, for today's SBE Webxtra meeting, is SBE President, and I guess he will be the outgoing president, and that is Jim Leifer. Jim, welcome in. How are you?
Thanks, Kurt. Nice to be here today. Yeah, I will be the immediate past president very shortly.
Immediate past president. That's quite a title. Hey, when we get into the show, after Chris's a member update, we've got some interesting things to talk about, and one of those is the SBE strategic plan. Would you foreshadow what we're going to be hearing about in just a few minutes?
Well, I think one of the things I can foreshadow about would be that just the fact that what we're doing here today, this was based directly on the strategic planning.
Gotcha. All right. And we'll have a word about the next SBE president, likely president. We'll have that also on the show. And we'll have an open forum, too. We have a chat room available if you are watching at gfqlive.tv. Then there's a chat room available. If you want to ask some questions there, then you can certainly go ahead and do that. But right now, let's check in back with Chris Scherer, the Communications Director for the Society of Broadcast Engineers, with a member update. Chris.
All right. Thanks, Kirk. Here is your SBE member update for August 19, 2019. As was noted, the SBE election, the annual election of SBE national officers and directors has been underway. It started July 26. Each voting member received an email on that date with a unique link to his or her ballot, as well as information about the candidates. Members who opted out of electronic voting, or for those of whom we don't have an email address on file, received their ballots in the mail. All e-ballots must be submitted electronically, and paper ballots received by mail or hand-delivered to the SBE National Office no later than 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time on August 28. There is one candidate for each of the 4 officer positions and 10 candidates running for 6 director seats that are being contested this year. If you haven't cast your electronic vote yet, you will receive a reminder tomorrow with your personal link to the ballot. So please take part in the election and cast your vote. Webinars by SBE. We have several webinars coming up. On Thursday, August 22, we have 50 tips for the broadcast technical professional. Jeff Welton shares some of his acquired knowledge from his years of field work. He'll cover years in grounding, lightning protection, safety, IT security, and whatever else comes to mind. On Thursday, September 19, we have RF201 Module 7, FM filters and FM combiners. Tom Silliman and Nicholas Paulin of ERI cover the ins and outs of FM filters and combiners, design aspects, the type of filters available, commonly used technologies for emission control and channel combining for shared antenna systems, and custom filter solutions, among many other things, will be covered. On Wednesday, September 25, we have part 1 of the fundamentals of SNMP. The simple network management protocol was created as a means to monitor and control devices in an IP network. This webinar series begins by providing a familiarity with SNMP fundamentals, beginning with consideration of a network management system, architecture, and system components. And on Wednesday, October 23, we have RF201 Module 8, AM Multiplexed Antenna Systems. Tom King of Kintronic Labs presents this webinar. It covers the feasibility criteria for multiplexing 2 or more AM stations, basic isolation filter designs, and tower feed methods for improved audio bandwidth of multiplexed AM stations, omnidirectional AM multiplex design approach, and directional AM multiplex design approach, plus more. Also, you may recall that the SBE partnered with PBS to present a day of education at PBS TechCon 2019. We took a deep dive into ATSC 3.0. Well, those sessions were recorded, and 4 of those videos are now available through Webinars by SBE page. If you attended the SBE at PBS TechCon sessions, you have full access to the videos. All webinars by SBE and the SBE at PBS TechCon videos cost $59 for members and $89 for non-members. But if you hold SBE Member Plus, all webinars by SBE are included free. Go to sbe.org/webinars for details and to register. You can watch the webinars live or watch them later on demand. On the certification side, if you want to take an SBE certification exam, here are some dates to know. If you're attending the AES convention in New York City in October, you can take an exam there. Just register by September 10. And the Chapter November exams will be held November 1 to 11. The application deadline is September 24. More information on that at sbe.org/certification. And that's your SBE member update for August 19, 2019.
That's awesome. Chris, thank you very much for that update. A lot of info there, action-packed. Those links will be in the show notes when the show is published on YouTube, on the SBE National YouTube web channel. Hi again, I'm Kirk Harnack back with you, and Jim Leifer, the president of the SBE, is our guest. And Jim, I wonder if we're going to talk some about this SBE Strategic Thinking and Planning meeting that you had back over a year ago, and some things that came out of it and what has been done. And I got to say, as a member of SBE, and I think sometimes rank and file members may end up thinking the same way, that, you know, things are pretty much the same year in, year out. There's some webinars, there's some certifications. Sometimes a few things get updated. Different people are elected to the board of directors and to the executive committee. Okay. But where's the organization going, and is there thought being given to that? Well, it turns out there is thought being given to that, because there is an automatic, every few years, there is a very in-depth strategic planning meeting. And I wonder if you could tell us about that and the fact that it came up last year.
Well, what I'd like to say is about almost 2 years ago now, we had a strategic planning meeting in Indianapolis. We invited all the board of directors. We also invited all the chapter chairs or one of their delegates to show up. We ended up having a little over 30 people. And based on it was almost a 12, 14-hour day, we came away with about 30 different items that the members and the board of directors keyed in on that was important that we deal with. And from those 30, what we really tried to do was say, what were the ones that we could do quickly? What were the ones that we needed to do a little bit more deep dive on and understand? And, you know, and where can we make the best impact to our members to, 1, grow the membership, 2, retain the members, and 3, give our long-term members more reason to do more stuff with. And I think this is one of those. I mentioned it kind of as a tease. Webxtra was one of those. We have a lot of engineers that are remote. They don't have the opportunity to attend the meeting. They're busy at work. They're working on a transmitter. They're at the studios. They can go home. They can bring this up and watch it. This was a great avenue. The Ennis Trust funded this for the next year so we could get this thing launched. And one of our board of directors, mainly you, Kirk, were able, along with Chris Scherer, to develop this and grow it and make it a living, breathing opportunity to touch our members and for the members to get some good knowledge out of. So that's a big win. That's one example. We've also done a deeper dive, keep this thing web-based, on redoing our webpage. Everybody, I think, would agree that our webpage needs a refresh. Obviously, that's going to take a little bit more heavy lifting to do, but we have a strategic committee. They've come up with some recommendations. We've now created another committee to go in and figure out exactly how we're going to do it and what we're going to do with it. So we're in the process of doing that. That one took a little bit longer to do, but those are just 2 of the items. But a couple of the things that we did do that was kind of exciting was Member Plus. Chris had mentioned it in the SBE updates. If you are a member of Member Plus, which this also launched in the last 2 years, and you weren't able to go to the PBS TechCon, you can now watch those videos with some in-depth ATSC 3.0 information from, I think there was about 30 speakers. I mean, it was just one after the other. Fred Baumgartner, who's been doing this with the SBE for decades, he put together a jam-packed agenda. And if you're a member of Member Plus, you can just click on that link and you can do that. If you're not a member of Member Plus, this might be the opportunity for you to upgrade your membership so you can now watch these videos. And I think Chris said there were 4 of them that were available right now. This was another thing that came directly out of the strategic planning initiatives that we started to do. So there's just 2 examples, and then one that's a little bit longer term, of things that we've decided that we needed to do as a society to attract new, retain, and then for the long term, what's the direction we're heading.
So coming out of that meeting, and you just hit a lot of the things right there, you had a number of items that were a priority 1, and they, some of them seem to be to use the strengths that SBE already has. That is a huge wealth of knowledge and a pretty good base of engineering members to expand training into IT. Oh my goodness. So often, I mean, every day, we as engineers are faced with IT challenges, issues, hurdles, things we need to learn. I myself experienced that with my own radio stations, and working for my particular employer, we are all about that. Maybe you could talk to us a little bit about how SBE is addressing that priority to get more IT training available.
Well, a couple of things that we've done is, in fact, Chris actually mentioned it in his remarks, that we've got some advanced training, SNMP training. So for people that aren't really familiar with that technology, this is going to give them those pillars that they can then grow upon. We've had some subject matter experts do webinars for us, and those are made available to the membership. And they've also done some speaking at other SBE events, whether it's a regional event or a local chapter event, or even the national events, where we can do some deep dives and in-depth training just on the IT aspects of what it takes to operate a radio or television station in today's world. So we have those are being made available, and we continue to expand that, not just in SNMP, but we also have IP networking. And we also have the 2 certification programs, which obviously is the Certified Broadcast Network Engineer, and then we also have the Certified Broadcast Network Technologist. Depending on where you are in your career, obviously CBNT would be the step 1, step 2 is CBNE. And they're not easy tests, but that also is another way to be able to go back to the bosses and say, I've studied, I've learned, and now here's the exam, I've passed it. And then obviously that builds confidence, and that's what we're here for, is to educate our members and give them a pathway to success.
I remember when our chapter in Nashville decided to provide an opportunity for everybody to get training and take the CBNT test together, and we did. And I think everybody that was there that day got their CBNT, and that was back when Terry Bond was teaching that.
Right.
And today we have webinars that can teach the same thing. Then I went on and got my CBNE along with quite a few other people. I wonder about in our title, the Society of Broadcast Engineers. Is there thought to trying to increase or widen the definition of broadcast? I know there's the notion that we want to include or be an organization for non-traditional technologies and media creation people. What do you have to say about that?
Well, one of our taglines is the Organization for Multimedia Professionals. As we continue to evolve, obviously this is something that comes up at a lot of these strategic planning meetings, and it was a issue that people wanted to have a discussion about. And obviously, we haven't come to a final resolve. But like I say, our tagline right now is the Association for Broadcast Multimedia Technology Professionals. That's a big word, all right, a big sentence. Where we end up in 5 or 10 years, I'm not really sure. It is on the horizon for us to look at this and try to come up with a better plan as to, do we rename? Do we stay the same? I think everybody's open to the opportunity. I think 50 years of being the SBE, that is still the anchor that allows us to do what we do, and everybody knows what the SBE is. Our partners, the other engineers, the federal government, everybody knows who we are. I think the fact that we can expand out to other professions, post-production groups that maybe they're not necessarily broadcast specific, but they still do a lot of the same things that we do every day. I think those are the people that we need to reach out to and increase. Also, the other part is there's a big IT component in our world. So how do we address the IT component and be effective to those people that are in our broadcast space that are doing broadcast stuff? How do we effectively do that? And those are things that that the board and the strategic planning, they've talked about, and they're continue. And we have committees that are trying to work through that right now and come back to the board with some real solutions on that.
One thing I'd like to address that I didn't get to earlier in the conversation was about the structure and the depth of the strategic planning meeting. You said there were almost 30 people there. You met for nearly 14 hours. And one of the helpful workflows to work through a meeting like that is to use the SWOT principle, the strengths. You evaluate the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And each of these, you identify strengths, you identify weaknesses, you identify opportunities, you identify threats, and then you look at, well, how can we address these particular things in each category? What is not going to be possible to address? Maybe you can just give us a little bit of your thinking about how that workflow worked for you guys at this conference, at this strategic planning committee. I wasn't able to be there, but I sure am interested in a bit more insight into the depth that you guys went through to figure these things out and come up with a prioritized list.
Well, a couple of them that come to mind was the Membership Plus, and then obviously this Webxtra that we're talking today on. Both were fairly easy to implement. We really have the corner of the market, if you will, on at any given moment we can reach 5,000 engineers. We can give them excellent training. We can obtain subject matter experts to create webinars, to create training opportunities, to attend a meeting, to come and be on Webxtra to talk about their specific discipline that they're experts at, that we may not be able to get to a local chapter. And that was really kind of the thought process was we can get people that come on Webxtra and provide information to the 5,000 members, but they may not be able to go to a local chapter meeting just because of flight restrictions and they're busy in their offices doing what they do. But we can get them on a computer and a laptop with a headset, and we can get them to talk about that specific thing for an hour or so. And that can be very effective. What a great tool.
Yeah.
Those are some of the big pluses that we were able to take away with. Now, when we did the SWOT analysis, there were some things that, we agreed that we needed to table, and maybe the next board and the next president will take those up and they'll push those on. The good news is that of most of the people that attended and most of the board members that were there as well, I think we've ended up getting 35, 40 people to kind of be part of these strategic planning. We set up 6 or 7 different subcommittees just to work on these very specific things in order to go forward and come up with their best solution as to what they think we can go forward with and how we can resolve this issue, implement the issue, how much is it going to cost. I mean, there's a whole, who's going to do the work. There's a whole bucket full of ideas, but then coming up with the solution takes a little bit more heavy lifting. So some of them will take a little bit longer, but I definitely think that the board has done a great job in taking the low-hanging fruit and getting it implemented really fast, being able to do those things. The previous strategic planning committee came out with the electronic balloting, and that was one of the things that they want to do. Now we just consider it that's what we do. So Webxtra, it's brand new. It's all shiny. It's amazing. In a couple of years, it's just going to be something that we do. Same thing with all the webinars and the Webxtras. With all the webinars and Membership Plus, right now that's still new. People are still, we had our executive director pull a report for me. We found out that over the course of the year that we've had a 3 times overflow of people that are watching our webinars and getting training and getting answers to their questions than what we had to the previous year. So that means people are using this material that we've had and that we're constantly adding to. And that's what we're here for. That's what we do. And now we're able to serve our members with more quality stuff. And that's the whole thing.
Is there any item that came out of strategic planning that you just haven't been able to get to yet or haven't made the progress that you'd like, and you sure hope that the next SBE president and board will carry on? And anything that's, sure hope that goes forward.
That'd probably be the web page refresh. You know,
Yeah.
the web page is very in depth. There's databases in there to verify your username and your access points, and you know, there's all kinds of, you can renew your memberships, there's credit card stuff. So it's not just a simple, you know, a web HTTP, you know, you can't just write it in one piece of code and be done in 10 minutes. So it's going to take a lot of heavy lifting in order to get that done. And that may take the next president, most of his administration, be able to get it done. But it'll be exciting once it is done.
Seems like one of the most requested features was the ability to track your progress or your toward recertification online, so you can keep track of meetings you've attended. I get that piece of paper every few years that I need to go back and remember, what did I do to deserve?
That's right. Where are my 30 credits? And even the president has to do the same thing. I was kind of checking the boxes. It's like, did I do this? Did I do that? How many SBE meetings did I go to? And you're right, that is a challenge.
I want to remind those of you who are watching or listening live, one of the places that you can watch or listen live is at the website of our host network, and that's the guys from Queens Network, GFQ. You can go to gfqlive.tv, and there's a chat room there. That's the best place to chat live, and we do have time to take some questions and comments after our next break. Chris Scherer is the co-host for this. Chris, what's going on your side?
Well, Jim was you were just talking to Jim about the website, and that's actually one of the areas of responsibility that I'm working on. Board member Roz Clark is the board liaison to that effort, and that means I get to do the sweeping and cleaning behind the scenes, I guess. We're in the process of gathering information and assembling sort of the wish list and seeing what's going to take on that. As you said, one of the items we would love to be able to implement on a newly designed site would be some individual membership areas that would enable you to track your recertification points. Of course, certification and membership are separate. You don't have to be one to have the other, and so on. But if you are a member and you are certified, then by all means, there's been some interest in being able to track your points in an online, more active fashion. So that's certainly one thing we are keeping in mind. Is there something else? Actually, a quick question, as long as we're on Member Plus. There was a question in the chat room about, for those people who are life members, is there a Member Plus option for them? Well, sort of. Unfortunately, it's not like life membership where you pay your life member fee and congratulations, you're sort of free and clear to enjoy member benefits for the rest of your life. I guess the better answer to that is call the national office, and it's a little more in depth than perhaps I can get into in a quick statement or two here, or email me, comms@sbe.org, and I'll be happy to get that info to you. But by all means, if you're a life member and you'd like to take advantage of some of the Member Plus aspects, we can certainly help members work on that. So with that, why don't we go ahead and take a break, if that's okay with you, Kirk, and we'll thank the generous support from our sponsor, which is Wheatstone.
Hello, I'm Jay Tyler of the Wheatstone Corporation, and today we're going to talk about expanding your AOIP system outside your current manufacturer. If you're an existing AOIP customer and you want to take advantage of some other features or applications by a third-party manufacturer, you most likely are going to use an AES 67 interface. To do this, you're probably going to need a master clock to keep the entire facility synced together. After that, you're going to want to pick the devices that will currently operate within your multicast range for AES 67. If you're not sure of that, please contact your manufacturer to make sure they're going to be compatible. After that, you're going to want to make a detailed list of all your multicast addresses to and from the system. That will eliminate any overlapping that could take place. So for more information about this, please get in touch with your AOIP provider and make sure that you can implement AES 67 successfully into your existing system. This is Jay Tyler of the Wheatstone. Until next time.
And once again, we thank Wheatstone for their generous support of the SBE Webxtra. At the top, we mentioned that the SBE Webxtra is the chapter of the web. It was designed as a way for those who maybe just can't get to a local chapter meeting or don't live near a chapter at all, a way to participate. And actually, by watching today's Webxtra, and if you're SBE certified, you've just earned a half point in your recertification program to recertify when your certification comes due. But the SBE Webxtra is not the only, call it remote chapter, if you will. We also have SBE Hamnets, the chapter of the air. We have two of them. There's an HF and a UHF VHF Hamnet. They meet on, and I accidentally just closed the window I was going to read from. The HF Hamnet is on Sundays, and the UHF VH 2 Sundays a month, if I remember. One Sunday a month. I'll find it in a minute. But the Monday Hamnet UHF VHF is every Monday as well. Go to sbe.org, click on chapters on the red bar, and you'll see a link for the SBE Hamnet. So be sure to check that out if you're a ham radio operator. Chat room is still open. By all means, you have a question for Jim, Kirk, or myself, or someone else, post it there, and we'll try to answer it during the today's episode of the SBE Webxtra. Kirk?
Jim Leifer, the current SBE president, is our guest. I'm Kirk Harnack. And Jim, I wanted to ask you, the election is going on, and the person running for president is Wayne Pecena, someone who I think most of us know and love. Wayne is running unopposed, so it seems likely that Wayne will be the next SBE president elected. And I wonder, Jim, what advice you might have for Wayne as he comes in to fill your shoes at some point.
Patience. I think that would probably be the best one. It's patience. I've been very lucky that I've had two great board of directors. And I mentioned a lot of things that we've been able to get done during the last couple of years. And that's basically because of all the heavy lifting of the board of directors. This is a volunteer organization. We have a couple people at the headquarters that fulfill the daily needs of the society, but it's a lot of stuff. There's just a lot of things going on. And everybody from everybody that's at the Indianapolis corporate office to all of the directors, they do a great job. So for Wayne, like you said, for those that know Wayne, I mean, what a great way to have an educator be our president. I couldn't think of a better person to hand the gavel over to. It's going to be exciting to watch the direction he gets to take the society, and I'll be excited to be his immediate past president and to be his confidant, and it'll be an exciting time for the next 2 years.
I'm a little curious, of what happens to immediate past presidents. I mean, do you go take a sabbatical in Boca Raton, or what kind of things lie ahead for you as the immediate past president of SBE?
Well, I think I still serve on the board of directors, but I think the one advantage that the immediate past presidents have, and I can speak for Jerry Massey, who is my immediate past president. He's been a confidant of mine, a close friend. He's been able to help me understand the things that maybe I didn't understand too clearly. They're kind of the unofficial best buddy of the president that can kind of guide him. Once the immediate past president's term is up, they pretty much ride off into the sunset. And hopefully I'll be able to do a good job for Wayne, just like Jerry's done for me.
You mentioned that the board members and yourself and others serve voluntarily. Of course, the staff in Indianapolis is paid. One thing that has come to my attention, being a member of the board of directors, is how incredibly efficient this organization is, and especially I'm speaking of in regard to our membership dues. Oh my goodness. We have a staff in Indianapolis that is so thrifty, and they put money where it's needed, and they really save money where they can. Can you address your thoughts about that as well?
Well, I agree. I mean, I think the one thing that I'll be able to say in my last speech will be that we've been able to give back to being good stewards of the money. that the society has. And by the way, the society has no debt. We will leave, I will leave my presidency with more resources than when we started. And that's a great thing. So that's a very positive, and that's directly because of the staff in Indianapolis watching every penny, trying to do the right things for the right reasons. And it's obviously, you know, the membership is growing. We've had more people sign up for Membership Plus, which has allowed us to do so many more things. You know, the exciting part will be, for me at least, is at the national meeting in Wisconsin. You know, we'll be there with a couple hundred people. That's always a big draw. I was there last year. There was 250 engineers there. That'll be exciting to be able to tell them all of these things that we've talked about today, plus a few other things that I'll save for the meeting. But to be able to leave the society in better shape, with more opportunities for more members to join, for the current members to become more educated and more confident in their abilities, and then, you know, to have more resources available for the next board. I think that's kind of cool.
So I have, I'm going to open it up to question and answer now, and I have the first question.
Yes, sir.
I'm the program chair for the Nashville chapter, and I've been very fortunate. I know a lot of people in the industry just by dint of having been a contract engineer and also having worked for the company that I do. Meet a lot of people, and it's been just wonderful. Plus, I meet board members and so forth. But if one thing I think some chapters struggle with is getting quality presentations or quality, interesting field trips. And I wonder, Jim, if you would tell us about any of the highlights of your experience in going to or presenting to SBE chapters, if you had advice for chapters as to how to get good meetings going with good speakers and good information and maybe even good field trips.
I'd say for the program chairmen and maybe even the chapter chairman, collaborate with the other chapter chairmen, not necessarily in your area, but maybe even on a regional basis. I've been to at least a dozen, if not more. In fact, this Wednesday, I'll be in St. Louis. Here's a plug. I'll be at the SBE meeting this Wednesday in St. Louis with barbecue and engineers and an SBE meeting that one of our sustaining members will be providing all the barbecue that we can eat, and they'll be talking. But in all of those meetings, that seems to be a reoccurring theme. But the successful chapters don't rely on just that one person or those two or three people, the president, the vice president, the program chairman, the certification chairman, to come up with the next 3 or 4 events. They have relationships with other chapters, and, you know, communicating amongst everybody, I think, is a pretty effective tool. I think that kind of helps a lot. There's also opportunities where you can share the ideas out on our Facebook, and that's usually where I've seen most of the back and forth. I was a chapter chair for many years, and I ran out of ideas. I mean, you know, once you get past the UPS guy, the generator guy, then it was either TV specific or radio specific. Maybe you get in a couple IT guys, you know, and then you still got 3 or 4 more meetings to go. And then what do you do next year? So it was always a bit of a challenge, but I was based in Miami. So I reached out to the Tampa chapter. I reached out to the Orlando chapter, the Jacksonville chapter, all that were nearby. And we actually ended up coordinating to make it more efficient for guest speakers to go to all 4 cities without having huge travel bills. And so we made it cost efficient for them. And then we were able to get quite a bit of interesting subjects, not just to my chapter, but also to my neighboring chapters. So that may be an opportunity for other program chairmen to do as well.
That's a great idea. We're fortunate here in Tennessee, where I am, that Nashville and Knoxville, typically our meetings are 1 day apart. except when the
Oh,
first day of the month is Thursday, because the last day of the previous month was on Wednesday. But yeah, so and I've had a number of guest speakers take advantage of that. And you alluded to it quickly, and I'll just mention it again. We do have a Facebook presence called SBE Chapters. It's a group, and you can join it. You ought to be an SBE member to join it. But lots of ideas there. We encourage SBE chapters to take pictures and post your meeting and tell us who spoke, and let us know, what you thought about it on the SBE Chapters group on Facebook. It doesn't cost anything to join. Just be an SBE member.
I'll throw out one more thing for chapter ideas too. On the SBE website, if you, again, go to that red bar that says chapters, one of the pull downs is chapter administration. And right at the top of that page is program ideas for SBE chapters. There's a list of possible speakers from SBE sustaining member companies. Some of them will come to you. Some of them may do an online presentation of sorts, but they're certainly available for your chapter as well. Just another source, another resource you can take advantage of.
And that's exactly where I got started with mine when I was appointed, elected. I think I missed a meeting and they made me program chair.
I think you mean railroaded.
Yeah, that might be the word. Yeah, but and I filled up an entire year by using that page. So yeah, that worked out well. Hey, I think we're about done. Chris, are there any more questions on your end?
No more that I have coming in at this point. So I think we're caught up on that side.
We ought to give Jim Leifer the last word. President of the SBE, Jim, last word.
Well, for anybody that's in St. Louis, I'll be in St. Louis on Wednesday. Otherwise, I'll be in Wisconsin in October, and I would look forward to meeting a bunch more engineers.
There will be a lot of them there. Hundreds. That Madison Broadcasters Clinic is absolutely terrific, and we add to that the SBE National Meeting, and yeah, it's quite good. Jim, thank you so much for being with us. I appreciate it, and I'll turn it over to Chris.
Well, thanks, Kirk. And again, thank you, Jim Leifer. You've been watching the SBE chapter of the web, the SBE WEBxtra. We come to you once a month, usually about the third Monday, but check your email and check the calendars to verify that that's the right time and day each month. We might have to slide it a little bit to accommodate certain guests, but we certainly appreciate your viewing. This will be available on our our YouTube channel, the SBE YouTube channel. You can get a link to that from our website as well. Give us about a day or so to prep the file and get it posted and available to you. So once again, we thank our sponsor, Wheatstone, who helps financially support the presentation of the SBE WEBxtra. Any questions or comments for the SBE, the WEBxtra, or anything in general, certainly contact anybody in the SBE National Office, or you can get a hold of me, comms@sbe.org, and I'll certainly put you in touch with the right person. But thanks again for watching the August 19 installment of the SBE WEBxtra, and we'll see you next time. On behalf of Kirk and Jim, have a good afternoon.